Learn how to use the Puppet Pen tool in Adobe After Effects. Let's check it out. Okay, here we are in Adobe After Effects, and basically what the Puppet Pen tool does, it allows you to take 2D images and basically manipulate the image. Okay, so I'm going to show you kind of a funny example at first, and then I'll show you one that would look, more serious or more cool with using live photography. Okay, in this example here, I'm going to zoom in, and I just got this PNG image off the internet, and it's just disco guy here. Now, when I said that you have to have a transparent background, basically what that means is the image, your main subject that you want to manipulate with the Puppet Pen tool, cannot be like a normal photograph. It has to have transparency around the main subject. So since this guy is just a PNG image, from the web, it's already transparent when I got it. When you work with real photography, let's go over here to Photoshop. You can see here's a photograph that I taken, and the main subject I want to be right here in the center. So if I take away the background, you can see now I have transparency around the main subject. So when you work with the Puppet Pen tool in After Effects, you need transparency. Alright, so let's just look exactly how this is going to work here. I'll turn back on my purple background. Alright, the Puppet Pen tool is at the top of the toolbar right up here, and it looks like a pen. You select it, it turns blue, that means it's highlighted. When you come over your subject, you can see that your icon is now of a pen. And if you click somewhere, it adds a yellow dot, and that's basically you're pinning that position. Kind of think of it kind of like joints. If your body has joints, you have an elbow joint and other parts of your body. That's what it is. So I put one right in the middle. If I come up here and put one on his arm, and I can scroll down and put one on his feet, now I've added 3 different pins to him. And basically what that does, if you want to move the image and manipulate it, if you grab those pins, you can see now I can make the disco guy dance here, because basically it's just stretching all the pixels of the image. So that's basically how the Puppet Pen tool works when it comes to moving a 2D image. Now let's go up to the very top here and look where it says Mesh Show. Check that box right there where it says Show. And now let's zoom in and look. You can see the mesh that it puts around the 2D image. See all the triangles? And right now we have 350 different triangles. This is what allows us to manipulate the image. If for some reason in your image you're not capturing everything, like parts of it is artifacting or coming loose, you can increase the expansion of the triangles. So look at the top again. We have expansion 3. If you just grab that number, and I'm going to move it to like 20. Now look at your image. You can see it's well expanded beyond, just barely right close to the edges of the picture. Now it's expanding out. All right. So if you ever need to increase the expansion, that's where it does it right there. It usually defaults to 3, but you can increase it or decrease it. All right. So why would we want to do the Puppet Pen tool? Now there's several reasons. Basically, the main reason is to add elements of animation to your movie. All right, now in this particular case with this disco guy, we're just going to do something a little fun and kind of make him dance, and then I'll show you the other example here in a minute. All right, so I've got my pen tools. Now, a while ago when I was just clicking around, I made too many. So if you highlight them, you can hit the delete button and get rid of that pen tool. And I made one over here on the wrist. I'm going to delete that one. I made one on the arm. I'm going to select it and delete it, select it and delete it. And now you can see when I move, you can see how it manipulates them. And since I don't have any anchor pins at the top, you can see how it's just moving its entire body. So I'm going to click one to add one at the top, one by his waist, and then I already have one at the bottom. So what we're going to do in order to make this guy dance like a disco guy, we're just going to work on moving the middle pen tool, right? Now in order to capture motion, come up here to the very top, and you can see next to it where it says triangles, it says record options. Click on the record options. It's going to give you a pop-up window, and it's going to tell you what to do. Hold down the command key in my case on a Mac, hold down the Command key while dragging a puppet pen to record animation. Then it gives you speed, 100% smoothing, and it says use draft. You can leave that checked, use draft deformation. All right, and you can choose to show the mesh or not show the mesh when you're doing this. I'm going to leave that unchecked, and I'm going to hit OK. So basically, hover over, click on that pen tool, hold down the Command key, and as soon as you hold down the Command key, you see that your icon turns into this little stopwatch. That means you're about to record animation, and it's going to keep up with the speed of your mouse. So if you move fast, it will record lots of keyframes. If you move slow, it will record fewer keyframes. So I'm just going to grab it and just start making this guy dance like crazy, and then let go. And you can see immediately all the keyframes that it created. Now if I hit play, you can see that we made our guy dance like a crazy disco guy. Now if you come over here to your timeline and you look at, you hit U on the keyboard, it'll open up and show you the keyframes that it created. So there's all the keyframes, but it followed the movements of my mouse while grabbing the pen tool. Now this is just kind of a silly example. If you want to have fun and do some crazy stuff, you can do that. Now let's kind of look at an example where it would be more a more kind of serious type of video. So that example that I had in Photoshop, I'm going to bring in that. So I'm just going to import the Photoshop document. And then when I choose the Photoshop document, it gives me this option to import as footage, which I won't. Then it says merge layers or choose layer. I want to choose a layer. I do not want the background. I only want the main subject. Remember, we want transparency. So I click choose layer, and then I am going to choose not the background, but the main subject, and that's going to be the layer that I named in Photoshop. I named it main subject. And I hit OK. Brings it in. I'm going to go to this other composition. Now I'm going to drag my main subject to artboard, or to my composition board here. All right, so there is the photograph. And remember over here in Photoshop, this was the original photograph. I used Photoshop to mask out the background, and then I imported it over here into After Effects. Now I am going to add some puppet pen tools. Now I'm going to add one right at the waistline just to add stability. All right, now this time all I want to do is add subtle movements. This works really well if you're ever doing a parallax video or a 2.5D parallax effect. So I'm going to add one at the wrist on his right hand and his left hand, right? Now the other thing that you can do, instead of just grabbing one pin and moving, like if I was to just move that one arm like that, you can hold down the shift key and select multiple pins. So now that both of those are highlighted in yellow, if I was to move them, you can see that it's going to move both his hands up, kind of like he's raising up, like, you know, a magician. All right, he's raising up. Now I'm going to hit the record option just like we did. Remember, in my example on a Mac, I'm going to hold down the Command key. It's going to turn into a stopwatch telling me that I'm about to record animation, and then I'm going to slowly move up. Okay, so I didn't go fast. I didn't do a crazy disco dance. I slowly moved his arms up. Now, the reason you want to do this, and then I'll be done with this tutorial, because that's basically it. That's the puppet pen tool. You manipulate 2D images by adding these pins, and then you can record animation by holding down the Command key. Here is the example of why I want to do something cool like this. You add a background, you rotate it, and then you add the subtle movements with the puppet pen tool, manipulating the 2D image, and now you've got animation. All right. So now it kind of looks like he's the master of the universe, and he's just raising up his arms and controlling the world there, or controlling the universe. All right, that's it. That's basically how you use the puppet pen tool. Bring in images, make sure you have a transparent background, add some pins, and hold down the Command key when you want to record keyframes and animate. Thanks for watching.